Okay, so graduation. What about the recruiting process for college?
Yeah, the recruiting process was amazing. Just because you get people that are really trying to figure out who you are. And for me, I wasn't a high enough recruit for people to just kind of bypass things. Like, for people just to kind of come in and not do their homework or do their due diligence on who I really am as a person. So for me, I feel like it really elevated me because people were really given the opportunity to see who I am. So the recruiting process was great from the standpoint. I was recruited by about 10 schools, I would say, realistically. I got letters from a bunch of schools, but I would say I got a lot of letters that are the typical letters that they send out to 10,000 other kids. But I always knew the difference because the schools that were really interested in me, I had handwritten letters from them, meaning an assistant coach or the head coach actually sat down, pulled out a card and initialed it to me and then wrote whatever on it, and that's kind of how I gauged who was really in it, who really wasn't in it. So for me, I had some big time schools looking at me, like I had Iowa, Purdue, but at the same time, academically, I hadn't necessarily done Iowa or Purdue type work in the classroom. So I'll never forget, Iowa had an offensive coordinator at the time. He was a guy by the name of Ken O'Keefe. And he was an older gentleman, but highly respected in the Big Ten, highly respected as a football coach. And I'll never forget, because I'm thinking, here I am, Olajuwon Cooper living in Little Old Ashtabula, and this guy is flying from Iowa to come in and see me and my receiver. So it was like, hey, I don't know if I made it, but I kind of feel like I made it. So this is where I learned like how important your grades are, and how important your grades are over time. So he came in, we had a great meeting, we watched some film. He definitely told me and my receiver, I think both of you guys could play at Iowa and play in the Big Ten, which for us was a huge vote of confidence. Just because, again, you can believe whatever you want to believe individually, but when you get someone of that stature telling you that they believe you can do it too, then the believing becomes that much more real. So he left right from our meeting and said, asked our head coach if he could go, to the guidance office so he could speak to the guidance counselor, and see our transcript, get a copy of our transcript. That was the first time I had ever really, heard about a transcript, per se, and it being the gauge as far as, college and academics. I just thought, athletically, you do what you need to do, and, as long as you're eligible high school wise, you'll be eligible college wise. So once Ken O'Keefe went to our guidance office, I never received another letter from Iowa ever again. And it was disheartening, but at the same time, I had to be a young man enough to realize that every college has eligibility requirements. Every college has entrance requirements, or So, and what I was told after the fact was, hey, it wasn't that we didn't like you as an athlete. We loved you as an athlete. We just knew that you wouldn't get accepted into Iowa. So there's really no point for us to continue to recruit you, because the only thing you could really do is go to junior college for 2 years, get your grades up, and then you'd have been able to, come to Iowa then. But for me, it was, I'm not going to go somewhere and waste 2 years to get my grades up. I'll just go to a place where my grades are good enough right now. So I kind of eliminated any big time school I had, which I had Purdue, Iowa, and I wouldn't necessarily consider UConn or Connecticut a big time school, but just based on their stature in other sports, I consider them a big time school. So I kind of had to eliminate the other, those two, or those three, I should say, once the situation happened with Iowa. Then I was pretty much down to MAC schools, which, again, I don't say that from an egotistical standpoint, because I don't want to diminish those schools that are in the MAC, because they're great schools. Again, Kent State plays a huge role in who I am today. I just realized, I kind of dropped the ball academically as to why those were my options. So when I was being recruited in the MAC, I guess you could say I had, a choice of really any MAC school. just because, that's kind of how it goes recruiting wise too. Once somebody in the conference offers you, or two schools offer you, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that you could play in that conference. So you may get some other schools that come in there and say, hey, well, we'll offer you too, just because they know you can play at that level. So for me, it came down to the quarterbacks in the conference, which at that time there was a lot of great quarterbacks in the MAC. You had Charlie Fry at Akron, you had Josh Cribbs at Kent State, you had Big Ben Roethlisberger at Miami of Ohio. At Bowling Green, you had a guy by the name of Josh Harris, who played a little bit for the Browns. So you had quality quarterbacks all over the MAC. So for me, that's what it came down to. I had to figure out, what quarterback that I really want to go learn from, what quarterback was going to be willing to really help, and then just kind of go from there. So when I went down to Miami of Ohio, I didn't hear great reports about Big Ben as far as who he was as a person, how he treated people. Great athlete, obviously, but not so great as far as how he treated people. So Miami of Ohio was immediately off the list, and it was like 4 or 5 hours away. So I wasn't going to go that far away. So that kind of left Bowling Green, Akron, and Kent really. I guess you could say Eastern Michigan was in it a little bit, just because that was my first official offer. So they always were near and dear to my heart, because I felt like that was the first school to really believe in me. That was the first school that really took a chance on me. But logistically, I couldn't go that far away. At least I didn't believe I could go that far away. So it came down to Kent State and Akron, really, for the most part, and Bowling Green. But Bowling Green at that time, they were coached by Urban Meyer, who I would have loved to have played for. Urban Meyer, he's a guy from Ashtabula. And what he told me is, if you're a guy from Ashtabula, which, obviously I'm from Ashtabula, but he said, if you're a guy from Ashtabula and you really can play at this level, he said, I definitely want you on my team. He said, I want to do anything I can for anybody from Ashtabula. So I thought it was my junior year, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that I was going to Bowling Green, just because I felt like if anybody was going to understand me, it would be Urban Meyer, because he understands Ashtabula. He's going to understand anything that I've experienced in Ashtabula, and then he's going to be able to tailor a plan for me at Bowling Green to be successful. And fortunate for him, he was doing such a great job that Utah came down and said, you know what, we think you could come coach here and be successful. So he leaves Bowling Green. Obviously, once he left Bowling Green, my scholarship did not travel with him to Utah. So I did still have my scholarship at Bowling Green once the new coach came in, but I knew there was no way I could go play for a guy that I don't know. I had built relationships with some of the guys. They had Chardon's current head coach, Mitch Hewitt, was a guy who was at Bowling Green at the time. He was an All-American. At this time, Bowling Green was ranked number 22 in the country. So everything was great about it. Urban just left. So again, then it came down to Akron and Kent. You're talking Charlie Fry and Josh Cribbs pretty much were the deciding factor, because the schools are 6 miles apart. So facility wise, they're pretty equal. One's not better than the other. So I decided, kind of on Kent State because of Josh Cribbs. Not saying Charlie Fry treated me bad, because he didn't. But I just felt like I would identify more with Josh Cribbs, and again, not even culturally, just from who he was as a person. He had experienced some hardships. He was in the military, comes from a military family, so he moved constantly when he was coming up. He talked about and how every situation wasn't really pleasant for him, because he knew there was going to come a time where he was going to leave. So I chose Kent State. And if I had to do it all over again and I had the same options, I would choose Kent State again, just because the experience I had there, the football, the coaching, my teammates, just the whole 9 yards. So I arrived at Kent State just based on, again, how it made me feel when I visited there. And then the other caveat to Kent State, which a lot of people don't realize, is my receiver from college, a guy by the name of Cameron Bob. We went to Kent State together. So having, your star receiver and you kind of be the star quarterback, we just thought, hey, we could go to Kent State, make some history. It would be nice to be throwing passes to a guy that I know personally. And talk about roommate preference. Now I don't have to room with somebody I don't know. We can kind of go through this thing together. So it was a beautiful thing to be able to go to college with, one of my best friends, someone that I knew personally.
Olajuwon, so 2021 football season. Tell me about it.
Well, I tell you what, the 2021 football season was a blast. Things got moving pretty fast from the summertime to the season. But overall, I thought the season was pretty good for us. Yes, statistically, as far as wins and losses, maybe not so great. But I'm one of those coaches that understands everything is not, as far as high school football is concerned, everything's not about wins and losses. There's a lot of progress that's made despite maybe not having too much success on the field. So I think our seniors did a great job of making sure that they set a great example for our younger guys to follow for the most part. And I think that really was is really like the starting point, or what's going to catapult us forward in the future, is just having a great senior class that was able to achieve some pretty great things as far as individual accolades. So I think they did a great job of setting the tone for us. And then, we had some younger guys step up. Like, for example, we had Tony Hall step up at quarterback, which I thought was huge for us, just because we had a guy that wasn't really scared. And then with him only being a sophomore and not having any varsity experience, I thought he did a great job for us all season.
Yep.
We had some injuries to some guys throughout the season that kind of affected us, but overall, I would say our young guys did a great job. I understand building a program, you don't necessarily want young guys playing too early, just because typically that leads to a bad experience. And if they have a bad experience, that can lead to them kind of being apprehensive about playing, or apprehensive about working hard, or doing things the right way. But I feel like the core of our team going forward was our sophomore class. It's 16 of them. And most of them played meaningful football this year. So I think the next 2 years, as far as our sophomore class is concerned, our future is pretty bright, because there's a lot of guys in that class that we can depend on. So I would say this season was a great season as far as experience, because we had a lot of young guys get quality, valuable experience that's going to help us. I don't think it's going to take long for that experience to help us.
Okay, well, we had you mic'd up for several of the games.
Yes.
And I want to show you, I don't think you've seen it yet, but I want to show you the video and the segment of your first win, the speech that you gave after that win.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we'll take a look at that.
Hey, so how you guys feel? How you feel? Hey, so preparation leads to excellence, right? We had a great week of preparation. It led to us coming out with an excellent performance today. All right, I can't even put into words, and you guys know I'm a communication major, so I got words all the time. I don't have any words for this. When you obtain lifelong dreams and you do it with special people, and you work a certain way, this is what life is about. And it's hard for me not to get emotional, because this is the best thing that could ever happen for me. So being able to help you guys as young men through this game I love of football, I tell you what, it's a special thing. You have to live your life for moments. I tell you guys all the time, live your life for moments, and great things will happen if you live your life for moments. I couldn't be any prouder of you. We had a great game plan, and we executed the game plan. What you guys have to understand next is that it doesn't take us being exotic all the time to be great. Sometimes it takes us just being fundamentally sound, playing sound Edgewood Warrior football. But this ain't the best this ain't the best we could do. This ain't the best we could do. All right, so we're going to turn it up. We're going to prepare the best we can. We're going to prepare the best we can. As coaches, we're going to try and make the game plan as simple as possible. I don't want to leave this moment, but I'm so excited about where we could go that I'm already thinking about what we could do this week in practice so we can be better. All right, so again, I love you guys. And when I toss that L word out, I'm not saying it just to say it. I'm not that coach that wants to endear itself to you off of what I tell you. I think I've done a good job of showing you I love you. I think I've done a good job of making sure you're in an environment that's conducive to everybody being successful. That's what it's all about, fellas. That's what it's all about. So again, I take no credit for my first W on my own. I couldn't have did it without you. It's not on my own. It's not on my own. So I don't care how far I go on this coaching thing. I really don't. The most important thing is I do it with special people and great individuals, great young men. that care about themselves and care about doing things the right way. I'll tell anybody that, listen, I got a bunch of hard-nosed kids that want to do things the right way. Hard-nosed kids that want to do things the right way. And when you do things the right way, you have an opportunity to come out on your home field on a Friday night and do some special stuff. We had a lot of guys step up today. The way we ran the ball, we got to be able to run the ball like that. We got to be able to run the ball. We got to be able to run the ball.
I ran the ball like that.
All right? We got to be able to run the ball, but I'm telling you, that gives us balance. That gives us balance. And if we have balance, we're the best team in this county. If we have balance. When teams make us one-dimensional and we got to stand back and throw the ball 50 times, that's not balance. So understand, sometimes we got to run the ball to get our passing game going. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
It's not personal. As a coach, you got to think, I was a quarterback. What do quarterbacks want to do? I want to throw the rock. That's what I want to do. But as a football coach, I understand the power in having balance, all right? And not just balance on the football field, but balance in our lives, right?
Sure.
Balance in our lives. So again, we're going to enjoy this tonight. Because I'm telling you, this is different. This is different. It's not just the first win, it's different. We prepared different. So this wasn't luck tonight. We prepared to go out and do this. Does everybody understand that?
Yes,
we prepared. We deserve this. And next week, there's another reward for us to go get.
Yes, sir.
There's another reward for us to go get. So enjoy this tonight. Most important thing, after you do something great, is are you going to take care of your brothers? Are you going to make sure your brothers make good decisions tonight?
Yes,
are you going to make sure your brother shows up tomorrow to everything we need going on? That's the next step for us. That's the next step for us. Because remember, I told you, it just takes one. Once you get a sniff of it, tonight we got a sniff of it. And I'm not talking about like a sniff of it from the standpoint of like they didn't give us anything. We took what we wanted. Every game for the rest of the year, we got to take what we want. Because we took what we wanted. We can do that every week. But it starts in your mind. It starts in your mind. It starts up top. If the mind is willing, the body will follow. If you're willing to go there, your body will follow. Does everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
I love you guys. Bring it up.
Hey, let's go. Hey, we said 8 a.m. for some reason.
Yep. So again, I think devotional is working. All right, let's go. Get in here. Let's take care of each other tonight. Hey, and somebody put on the pancake chain. Now we got to get more guys putting on the pancake chain. We understand? All right, let's go. Family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I tell you what, I'm a guy that, kind of wears his heart on his sleeve from an emotional standpoint, and I like to live in the moment. So when I look at, a video, when I look at that video, it just, it stirs up all the great things about coaching. It stirs up all the great things about having an impact on a young man's life through this great game of football. So for me, it was a beautiful thing to watch, but not because it was me, speaking. It was, watching young men, be successful, which that was my whole goal coming in, to give these young men everything I got, and to make sure that every opportunity we have to be successful, we take advantage of. So that was our first opportunity to be successful, really based on the competition, and we did a great job of taking advantage of it. So when I hear that, it really gives me goosebumps, because it lets me know that I was able to have a positive impact. I was able to help those young men strive and be successful, and really that's all it comes down to for me as a coach. I just want my players and my program to have a chance to be successful. So I look forward to many more moments like that, not necessarily speeches, but definitely many more moments like that I can share with my team.
Okay, so shortly before that speech, you approached a Grand Valley player.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to take a look at that one. All right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, you're a hell of an athlete, man. I honestly, I told my guys, I feel like you can play at any school in the county. You're that great of an athlete. So don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged, because at the end of the day, it's got to be about who you are as a young man. And as long as it's about who you are as a young man, you'll always keep pride and play hard. Don't worry about the team stuff, because you can't control who you got with you, right? Mm-hmm. You can't control that, but you can control how you play. Yep. Right? Mm-hmm. And I respect you. I think you're a hell of a player, man. I think you're a hell of a player. Keep playing, and understand great things happen to great people when they keep at it, when they don't give up. All right?
Yep.
Keep playing. Keep playing. Absolutely. Keep playing.
So
Your thoughts on that?
He's a heck of an athlete. So as you can hear in the first snippet of the conversation, I just tell him what a great athlete he is. So for me, being a former quarterback myself, I can definitely understand and sympathize with that young man as far as being a great player, and not necessarily being on a great team. You can't necessarily pick your teammates. So for me, as a former quarterback, as a head coach, as a parent, as a dad, I just felt like if I could, encourage that young man, there's no better opportunity than right now for me to encourage him. So I wouldn't consider that going out of my way. I wouldn't consider that anything extraordinary. I would consider that me taking advantage of an opportunity that I was given based on me being the head coach. So when I spoke to that young man, I know, as a teacher, as a coach, it's about empowering our youth. So I just wanted to empower that young man that, even though you're facing some adversity because you just lost a football game, all is not lost because you lost a football game. You still have a lot of games to play. You still have a lot of qualities that you possess as a young man. So I just want you to know that this isn't the end all or be all. You can still move forward. You can still be successful. So I wanted them to hear that from someone that was credible, someone that didn't necessarily have to give him that, but was still willing to give him that, because again, as a parent, I think it would be phenomenal if my son, who plays football as well, was going through a line and a coach. Now, to me, it wouldn't matter if it was the head coach, just a coach, the stature, pulled him to the side and uplifted him and encouraged him. To me, I think that would be the ultimate, just because it's coming from someone that, again, may not be connected to you, and you may not spend a lot of time with that person, but it was pretty easy for me to recognize that he was a great player and a heck of a young man.
Okay, you had mentioned that you got a message from his mother.
Yeah. So his mom messaged me and said that she had never experienced anything like that. So I just reiterated to her that what I had done wasn't anything special. I'm a guy who believes in taking advantage of moments, and that was a moment that me and her son could share. And I was appreciative that he was receptive to the message, because it wasn't a sugar-coated message of me trying to just make him feel better. It really wasn't about that. It really was about trying to get him to understand that all is not lost because you lost this game. You can still do whatever it is you'd like to do, and I still expect you to be pretty successful because you're that caliber of football player. So, but to receive the message from the mom, I had to take a step back and really detach myself as a coach. For me, that was a beautiful moment as a parent, because I could understand where she was coming from as a parent. So I guess the bonus in that situation was that, I'm the coach. But as a parent, it made me happy, because those are things that I like to do, that can make my own kids proud. Because when someone hears about that, and they may, come across my son who's a freshman in high school, and he may hear that, and it's something that he could hear that would make him proud. So for me, it's all about just doing the right thing. So in that moment, I had an opportunity to do the right thing, so I did it. And I'm appreciative of it because it was a great moment.
Okay, so there were ups and downs in the season. We know that. So I'd like you to tell me about what you think were highlights of the season, but I also want you to talk about the Jefferson game too.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the highlights from the season, the first one I can think of is the Orange game, in which we had just lost our starting quarterback for personal reasons. So we had a young quarterback stepping in. So and we're playing on the road. And I'm not talking like, Geneva, Jefferson on the road, an hour, 15-minute bus ride on the road, with a sophomore quarterback going to make his first start, and some other young guys, going to make their first start too. So the Orange game was a great highlight for us, because I think it showed that, sometimes when you have adversity, it's not the worst thing in the world to have adversity. I think, the adversity we faced after the Jefferson game kind of brought us together and allowed us to go to Orange and put a pretty good product on the field, despite it being a sophomore's first time out. So he actually, our quarterback, Tony Hall, was named CVC Player of the Week after that game, which for me, even when I was nominating him, it was a beautiful thing, because I was in position to be nominating my sophomore quarterback that didn't have a lot of experience. but that worked his tail off and did everything we asked him to do. But more importantly, he was up for the challenge. And from a leadership standpoint, it was very easy for our guys to rally around him and follow him. So when you talk about the Orange game, great highlight for us as a team, as a program, just because we went into a hostile territory and we beat I wouldn't say, they were a great team, but we beat a pretty good Orange team. I would say we were on par with them competitively, and we handled them pretty well. So the Orange game comes to mind. I think about the West Geauga game, where West Geauga had the ball 4 times in our red zone in the first half, and 2 of those times they had the ball inside the 10-yard line, and they left with 6 points, which I think is a testament to our defense. I was watching the 4-4 and goal broadcast of the game, and they called our defense elite. And I would be hard pressed to believe that if West Geauga, they got a heck of a place kicker. So the first field goal this kid made was a 35-yarder, and at the high school level, sometimes the extra point isn't just a foregone conclusion. So to have a young man out there booting 35-yard field goals, I think obviously that's a testament to his ability. But if they didn't have such a proficient kicker, we may have left those 4 red zone possessions. They may have left those with no points. So I think they just had kind of a guy that most teams don't have, in a place kicker that could really, kick. So, but the West Geauga brings back great memories. The other thing that the other game, which, when you look at the score, you may not think is so great. But the Kirtland game brings back a lot of great memories for me because, again, you're talking about Kirtland, who's a perennial power in the state of Ohio. I believe Coach Laverty's won 6 or 7 state championships there. So they're a pretty good program. But to finish that game and play the way we played, to go through the line at the end of the game, shaking hands, and to have a coach of Kirtland's stature, Coach Laverty, say, "Hey, your guys play the game the right way." To me, that speaks volumes about our young men. And it also speaks volumes about the culture and the program that we are trying to create at Edgewood, which, again, it's not, confirmation that we're heading in the right direction, but I think it was a really valid point made by Coach Laverty when he says, "Hey, I think you guys are heading in the right direction." And, more importantly for me as a head coach, it's about playing the right way. So not only are, we trying to get better from a X and O standpoint, but the way our young men conducted themselves as young men on the field, to me, that speaks more volumes about who they are than, necessarily what they look like as football players. So that was definitely a huge highlight for me. Or not for me, but for our team and for our program, because again, to get a compliment from a coach of that stature, you definitely know he knows what he's talking about, and he's been around tons of teams, so it's not anything that he had to say to me. I definitely took him at his word and felt like he was being genuine with that. When you take a look at the Jefferson game, again, it has historical aspirations, as it's the first time you have 2 African American coaches leading the way in Ashtabula County. So for me, I tell our kids all the time, in life, you want to do special things. You want to work hard. You want to position yourself to do some great things. So I think that was a culmination in something that I could explain to our team, that, hey, this isn't really about me. This is about my hunger and want to be great. And because I want to be great, now I'm in position to do some things, as far as history is concerned, that no one's really ever going to be able to take away from me. And again, I don't think it speaks to my individual greatness. I think it speaks to my mentality. It speaks to my heart. It speaks to really who I want to be in life. So that Jefferson game for me was a lot bigger than me, just because there may be some African Americans, there may be some minority coaches in general that want to come along after me. So I want to make sure I do this thing in such a way that, this is not clouded for anybody else that's trying to come after me. I want to make sure that door is wide open for anybody that's coming after me. I have a great deal of respect for Coach Hanna at Jefferson. He's a guy that I've known my whole life. I'm a couple years older than him, but when you talk about quarterbacking, we both played quarterback at Lakeside. We both were pretty good quarterbacks there. So there was a lot of connections outside of us just being, 2 African American head coaches. I also would love to talk about the environment of that Jefferson game. because there were people everywhere at that game. And again, I don't think it's just based on the historical aspect. I think it's just based on, you know, the reputation that myself and Coach Hanna have as being football guys that played at a high level and understand the game at a high level. So you realize if I go watch this game, I'm going to see high level football just because they both played at a high level. So I was ecstatic to be able to share that moment with someone that I know and care about strongly. So for me, it was amazing. That Jefferson game was amazing. And again, even though it didn't go the way we may have wanted it to go, our kids still fought. Our kids still competed in a way that made me happy and proud as a coach. And I know, you know, our better days as far as Jefferson is concerned are ahead of us. So I can definitely take that.
Okay, great.